This is gonna hurt.
It's gonna hurt.
Okay, let's go. No human that I can think of gets born to destroy other human beings.
The cost is a broken heart. Welcome to the Rethreading Lives Podcast, where we talk about how to take your threads of harm and through the rethreaded process, transform them into something that actually helps you reach your potential. We'll talk with different leaders in our city and our country and find out what they're doing. You'll walk away from listening to this podcast with useful insights and captivating stories on how you yourself can rethread your life and your business. I'm Kristen Keene, and this is the Rethreading Lives Podcast. Today on Rethreading Lives, Jason and I are going to be talking about the rethreading process and how blame and shame can shrink your potential. And blame and shame, we have a little acronym that I'm using. I don't know if Jason's going to use it, but it's BS. So it's not, the title of it can be like not letting BS get in your way. We've been starting to have some good discussions with our staff on this. So a little overview of the rethreaded process. At Rethreaded, we want to take our threads of harm, our threads of hurt, the hard things we go to, and rethread it into something that helps us reach our potential. And the ingredients of this rethreaded process are not in order, but we believe you need all 5 to succeed. Time, which is your currency of healing, the ability to sit with your thread. Community, the ability to trust others with your threads. Openness, which is being vulnerable and honest about your thread. Purpose, which is what is the purpose of the thread in your life. And vision is that the belief that things can change and get better. And this is what we've been centering our discussions on at Rethreaded. Specifically purpose. Do you want to start us off?
You can edit this section out.
No, I like this section. We just got to get going. I don't know what is. Oh, I think after devotion this morning, I was just like, whew.
Yep. Well, I mean, we see one of the things we see, and we keep going back to time, and I think that's a set of wording we haven't used before, is time is your currency. And so you have to invest it. You have to invest it intentionally. You have to invest it wisely, which is why purpose becomes so important. Because if we know purpose and we understand why we are, and then we have the ability, the filter through which to make decisions about where to invest our time. And what we're seeing is that blame and shame waste time and then shrink our potential, shrink our sphere of potential, and get us off track from our purpose, because we're wasting valuable energy, emotional energy, focused on anything other than our purpose, which is either why this happened to me, or woe is me, or I did this, instead of what's the next right thing to do to move towards our purpose. So, I mean, I think it's a powerful thing. I think our ladies deal with it as they heal further. It takes time in the healing process before your heart is capable of laying blame and shame down, I think.
I know, because I think most of our women come in and they have forgotten who they are. Like, they don't know who they are. They've been told who they are. We talk about it, their purpose has basically been hijacked, made a commodity. Yeah, so when they walk on our doors for the first time, I think most of our women don't know.
Yeah, because they've switched into survival mode. So purpose is the last thing you could care about is I just have to get through the day. So you're automatically living in default, or someone else is making the decisions for you that you're being forced to live with. So whether it's a default because I can't make the decisions, or default because I'm not allowed to make the decisions, I'm still not able to see here's what I'm here for, and here's what I want to do, and have agency in myself to actually go do it. So they're out of habit, or they never learned in the first place. Especially some of our ladies, entered the trade at a very early age in life. So they were still learning how to just be a human. And all of a sudden, thoughts about what I bring into the world just was never even something that they had a chance to entertain. And so they get out and they're in that mode. I mean, they're still in that mode, and it takes a lot of healing and community. I mean, those other ingredients are critical. So that's why everybody gets all trapped. I want to know the process. What's the step-by-step process? And they are ingredients. They all have to be there, because without time and without purpose and without community, or without time and community and openness, you'll never get to purpose. Without purpose, you can't really get the right community, and you waste time on things that aren't getting you where you're trying to go.
I mean, in my whole time of doing this, it's probably why I so passionately believe it. I've never, ever seen a woman leave alone, ever. No matter what country I'm in, what culture, I've never seen a woman leave alone.
And even in the conversations we've been having recently, the conversation starts out sounding like I woke up one day, I wanted to change. And then as the conversation keeps going on, you suddenly realize, no, I woke up one morning and I heard I could change from someone else, or someone came to me and told me, you realize this doesn't have to be this way. So even though, some people would start their story saying, I did this, I decided one day, when you really dig in, you suddenly realize, no, someone else crossed the path. And they borrowed that person's hope, that person's vision. They had no vision for that. I mean, it's the same thing they say to us, when we're doing those early interviews. Where do you want to be? What do you want to do? What do you want to be in 5 years? I don't know. You put me wherever you think I should be. Because they've lost the ability to hope. They've lost the ability to dream. Vision isn't even a possibility at the moment. It's going to take some healing to get there. But yeah, so I think that's a powerful thing for leaders in any company, to understand that their words they're speaking into their people, whether you're a pastor and you're speaking to a church, or you're a parent and you're speaking to your children, or you're a CEO and you're speaking to your staff, you may be the voice that helps them realize that there is hope. There is a possible future that's powerful in my life, and helps those people find purpose. So yeah, they just show up to work in a warehouse, or they just show up to work in a bank, or they just show up to work wherever they work in your company. And then you're the one who helps them tie it together with, oh, I see how my work is going to bring my love. I like your wording, and you should share that again, is your purpose is to, and I may get the words close, but you should repeat them. Your purpose is to be able to give and receive love. And we've talked about, God put us here for a specific reason. He made us a certain way. He gave us talents and skills a certain way. He put experiences in our life. He even uses the experiences he didn't put in our life, but the evil world put in our life, to give us a set of skills and power to achieve this purpose that he designed for us. And so if we execute that purpose in the world, it will be an act of love to others, a person, a group of people, or the whole world, because God is love. And so when he created us for a purpose, he created us for that purpose. And so I think that's a powerful piece of the evil one would want to stop that, would want to get us too busy to do our purpose. It's that old saying of, the devil doesn't have to make us bad. He just has to make us busy. Bad things happen in the world because good people do nothing. Yeah.
And that's what I led devotion this morning, and that's kind of what I was talking about. Like, sometimes we feel like this purpose is like a mystery, like it's this big complicated thing and you have to know the specific thing. And it's not that complicated. I mean, everyone has a similar purpose. Yeah. And it's different for you because of what you bring and who you are. Mm-hmm. Me and you live our purpose out very different at Rethreaded. Mm-hmm. But it's tied to love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think it's easier than we make it out to be. because I think everybody starts getting into this existential conversation of the meaning of life. What's my purpose? Why do I exist? And you can keep digging and digging and digging, and that probably creates more and more clarity in the picture. But if you just woke up in the morning and cared for others and executed your job, whatever it is, you cared well for your children, you care well for your friends, you cared well to execute your job the way you should, which supports your coworkers and helps them care for their kids. If the company does well, everybody's able to put food on the table, then suddenly you realize that just doing the next right thing mysteriously gets you to your purpose, because your talents are going to make you behave in a certain way. Your personality style is going to make you behave in a certain way. You are going to be authentically you. And if your goal is to put good in the world and to genuinely impact individual people, yeah, you're gonna find your purpose, and it's probably gonna find you. And then you're gonna look back and realize, oh, these last 30 years, unless we really get off track and care only for ourselves and what's the next buck I can make, and can I get a bigger TV and gets involved into things, then yeah, we're probably going to get off track.
And that's, yeah, because no one can take your purpose. Bad things can't take your purpose. Hard things can't take your purpose. That's was super powerful for me to remind this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Like nothing can take away the love of God.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing can take away my mission to love people. Except myself.
Yeah, I might not feel like being loving today, but I still have a choice. I can choose to be loving even in a dark circumstance, even when I'm tired. Yeah, I can choose to do the right thing, and therefore, yeah, a person can't take that away. The other person might be ugly, but I can still be nice. I can still choose to love them, and no matter what they say to me, they can't take away my opinion, my behavior towards them, what I decide to think towards them.
I was sitting on the bench when I was starting Rethreaded, in that verse. God gave me the love verse, I feel like. Like you could give all your possessions to the poor. You could, what is it? Shout it. What is it?
Speak with the
tongues
of angels.
Tongues of angels, but have not love, you have nothing. And I feel like maybe that was both, because I have done things without love. I've done things out of my ambition and drivenness and insecurity, even though from the outside it looks very good. Because I think that you can hide behind it looks good, but actually it can be devoid of love, and it ends up being empty for you, for the person.
Yep.
I mean, I still feel like even in my ambition and my selfishness, I did hurt people, but good, of course, it was rethreaded into good. Of course, despite myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's neat, because yeah, there's a place for grace for ourselves, that if we genuinely wake up every morning and we're trying to get it right, knowing full well we're going to get it messed up sometimes, people learn your heart, and so they give you grace. But there's also, God looks on our heart and knows what we're trying to accomplish, what we're trying to do, and even if we get it all flubbed up, He's able to work it out and still use it for good.
I know when I think about sometimes like I will sit here and say, like, I believe that anything can be rethreaded. But then I think of like these huge leaders of this church that will sin sexually. And the vast heartache that it leaves behind. And I guess what I'm trying to say is if you do not do the work, it will not heal.
It will not heal.
Yeah, you'll just leave a bloodbath behind you if you don't do the work of.
And then in the bloodbath, each individual on the receiving end has a choice to make.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this person might be to blame. They did this thing. Okay, they're guilty. But if I spend my life blaming them, I'm going to derail my potential. So they may be guilty if they spend their life in shame and don't move forward, make restitution, correct the behavior, repent, turn and go the other way and make things right. No person may accept them again. Okay, there's consequences that even in redemption, even though God might forgive them, there may still be consequences. Their family may be destroyed. People's lives may be destroyed. Those are kind of the natural results of some damage that we do in life. But they can move on unless they hang on to shame. And the others who were hurt could move on unless they hang on to blame. So yeah, there's still another choice to be made, even though I may be the victim of the most horrific thing around. As long as I'm alive, I still have a choice. Viktor Frankl is a perfect example. Living in the Holocaust, but he still had a choice of what he was going to allow his mind to think and what he was going to allow his heart to become. And I think that's really the conversation that's been sticking with me and I haven't been able to get through is this living life by default. Is we are all just so quick to just try and get through the day, let the day come as it comes. I've got excuses and I got blame and it's 1,000 other reasons why I didn't do this or I didn't do that or I did do this, rather than just the acknowledgement of it. I have to choose to live my life intentionally. I have to wake up and all day long make decisions to accomplish my purpose. And that sounds exhausting, but it's just a habit. It's just a habit that has to get created.
Well, I guess I keep going back to for our listeners, there's a human trafficking panel coming up, and we sat down with 3 of our women who are survivors of human trafficking yesterday. We just had a conversation about the journey of healing. And I went home really convicted because of the amount of work that these women have done and how intentional it is. That they were survivors of human trafficking, deepest, darkest places. And they had to go make amends with their families and their kids. And intentionally have the conversation and just let themselves hurt and let themselves feel the hurt that happened to their families. And then how one of our ladies is how she forgave her trafficker. So intentional and so hard. And I look at her and I'm like, oh, there's still people in my life that I just hammer the blame still on. But how intentional the work is to do that, to live out your purpose and heal and reach your potential.
Yeah.
It ain't for sissies.
It is not. It's this is going to hurt.
It's going to hurt.
Okay, let's go. Just the sheer guts it takes to look down that gun and say, oh my goodness, this next thing I have to do is going to be incredibly painful. And then choose to move forward anyway. Especially when you have a legitimate blame.
Yeah.
A legitimate excuse. No, my family, you don't understand what was happening to me. But the vulnerability to say, but I know the damage it did to you. Mm-hmm. And I want to hear that because I want to have a relationship with you. And I might have a legitimate claim to blame, but I lay that down because this relationship is more important to me than winning the blame game of being able to push this off and not take responsibility for the actions that I did do. Even though I did it through duress, even though I did it through pain, I did do it, and it did have an effect. I think that's the thing, you and I doing what we do, we understand the incredible power these ladies have, how strong, and so I think a lot of people still think of them as weak and I know we get tangled up in the language of victims mm-hmm. and survivors and stuff. But I think some people actually think that they're weak and broken and victim, not in that something was perpetrated against them. That's true. But, and that is just so incredibly strong to do the things that they do that you and I don't do it. And then most of the people listening to us
don't do
it. We live by default.
Yeah.
And they got to a place, and maybe it's the brokenness. Maybe a human has to get to brokenness, has to get to the point where they realize that left to my own devices, I am not a force of good in the world. And whether that's through some sort of spiritual journey or experiencing the horrors of humanity, at some point, to get out of just kind of floating through life. It's kind of like the curse of blessing, that you get lazy and just kind of float through life. And then they get to a place where they realize, no, intentionality is the only way I'm going to survive.
The only way.
And doesn't matter whether this is easy or hard. If I want that relationship, this must be done. I have to make these amends. I have to endure this.
I went to counseling. Like, I had my counseling appointment yesterday, and I was like talking to her, and I was like, "That was amazing." I was so convicted. Mm. And we did this exercise, and I had to like go internal and look at my heart. Whatever. What happened was that there are some rock hard spaces in there from my hurt. Shut down, rock solid hard. And I was so convicted after them, because the thought of reopening that is just, it makes me sweat. Yeah. Or like talking through that with those people, and I'm like, oh my gosh. But I know that stops me. I know that stops me from reaching my potential, because it's rock hard. And no one can get to it. I can't get to it, so then I can't access it. And I am, it's almost like I'm by default choosing to not reach my potential.
And truthfully, I would rather a person do that. I would rather a person choose to, this is too painful. I am not going to deal with this right now. And our lady said there are times I had to do that.
It's too much.
And that's intentional still. Oh, no, you should just deal. No, sometimes it's just too hard at the moment. In an ideal world, theoretically, yes, we should forgive everything instantly. But come on, we're humans. That's not real. That doesn't actually happen. So sometimes the pain is so severe that we have to. But I'd rather us choose to, no, I don't want to forgive that person right now. At least that's a choice. At least we're still present and we're choosing to do that. Rather than just kind of pretend like it doesn't exist and ignore it and
not deal with it. Well, no, I am choosing not to deal with it.
But at least you're choosing.
Yeah.
Right.
But sometimes I don't even realize, it's probably about the openness part. I don't even realize it's there sometimes until I bump up against it, or I'm with these amazing humans. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking of the expungement process that our women have to go through, where they have to like retell their trauma, and it takes a long time for women to be ready for that to happen. But then I remember one of our women saying to us, I'm ready to do this expungement, because this is the last hold he will have on me.
That's right.
And I went out. And she was willing to go through it all because she wanted out. She wanted freedom. Oh, so good.
Yeah, to be able to look at, no, I'm playing for a higher purpose here, and I want freedom, and freedom has a cost, and it's that cost, and I haven't been able to pay it up until now, but now I'm ready and I'm willing to pay it, and to keep our eyes on the goal and go through, make the sacrifices we need to make to achieve those goals. If company leaders and family leaders and church leaders lived that the way our ladies the level of success, however you define it, that they would accomplish in their lives, they can't even imagine. But we just don't, because we got it too easy. But if they woke up every day and said, I'm going there, and it's going to hurt along the way, and I'm willing to pay the price. I mean, you see it in Olympians when you hear their story of the pain that they actually had to endure for whatever it is, 6 o'clock morning workouts for 8 hours or whatever. Yeah, I mean, they put their eye on the prize, and then they pay the price, whatever it cost.
And when I read that devotion this morning, it reminded me that it cost, the cost is a broken heart. Like Christ's heart was broken. And that's probably what we're all avoiding.
And we see it in our society. I mean, we see it in our churches. We see it in religions. And you know, it's in a song, you know, break my heart for what breaks yours. I mean, it's if we get close enough to Jesus that our heart hurts for the things that hurts his heart, yeah, we'll behave differently. But we don't. We blame. We yell. We fuss. We accuse. We condemn. And that's just not what he did. Neither do I condemn you, is what he says. So he paid the price, and he understands that these things that we put in our lives hurt us and break us. And he's not mad about it. He's just heartbroken about
Heartbroken.
But instead of us being heartbroken for the people around us, we point and accuse and yell and blame.
I'm particularly good at blaming.
And blame. Well, the interesting is, you know, you're saying, hey, I've got this thing in my heart that's too hard. And we talked about, well, you're right. If your purpose is to give and receive love, that hard part limits there's a section inside the sphere that's full. It's full. And yes, you can keep it as long as you choose to, as long as you don't feel like you can deal with it or whatever, you can choose to keep it. But as long as we just keep in our head, well, my sphere has a chunk in it that I can't access. And so, yeah, my capacity is limited because I can't put anything in that space. And therefore, there's nothing good coming out of that space either.
Right.
It's dormant at best. It could be toxic, but it's dormant at best.
It's sometimes toxic. I feel like I'm going way old school, but I had this vision in my 20s. I used to get visions all the time. And it was my heart. And I'm just remembering this as I'm sitting here telling you about Heart of Stone, and I feel like God was like, this is your heart, and there was black hearts in it, like black parts in it. And I had to be the one that reached inside my heart, took it out, and gave it to Jesus. And that was when he was free to reach inside and give me light. But I had to be the one to take it out. Forgot about that.
Yeah, because he's standing there willing and able and ready, but He doesn't force himself on us.
Because it doesn't work at Rethreaded. I mean, anytime we try to force anything, I mean, I guess that's a human condition. You cannot be forced into something.
That's right. You can force the body, but you cannot force the mind or the soul unless they choose to allow it. Like no one accusing me can change me unless I allow it to change me. They can break my body. They can do things to my body to control it through power. But the mind and the soul, I still control up to the point I breathe my last breath. Yeah, they can't take that.
Is that true? I mean, I just think of sometimes the last stage of human trafficking is immersion, where a woman's been in long enough that she believes this is her life. Mm-hmm. This is what she chose. If she tries to leave, they will kill her. Mm-hmm.
I don't know what makes the difference between the person who just gives up and dies and the Viktor Frankls, who somehow held on to their mind in the middle of the Holocaust. I don't know what the difference is. I guess anybody eventually, the human frailty of your mind eventually breaks. I mean, because it is a physical part of your body as well. I mean, I guess there's probably a point at which you could break a person's mind, but then I think you're going beyond irrational thought. I mean, at that point, you're actually broken. I mean, it's not, I don't know what the right words are. So your brain's not functioning properly anymore. So you can't control it. I don't know where that line would be and what makes the difference. Why one person can endure unimaginable suffering and still come out with a heart that's ready to love.
I don't know.
And another person gets cut off on the freeway and goes on a shooting spree. What in the world? Yeah, I don't know.
I know, because, I mean, this is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking of women in trafficking. Usually, when women become traffickers, it's because it was done to them. And I'm thinking of this one woman that trafficked one of our ladies. And our employee still cannot forgive her. She has not forgiven this woman. Because she's like, this woman was pure evil. Mm-hmm. She had 8 babies, given them all up for adoption, violent, vile, recruited young girls into the trade, then turned on them. And I mean, and then I think of our ladies and how somehow through that, I feel like I can imagine some of our ladies in the trade still being, part of them was there. Like, I think when was there, she was still herself. In some ways herself. She still took care of people. She still was the mother hen. She still, like when was in jail, still took care of her. Like, she was still able to keep her humanity in the midst of this. But then they'll also tell me stories of women that do give up and just submit to it, or drug overdose, or I don't know. That was a very big ramble of something that I'm trying to make sense of, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I for sure. I think I think everybody that ends up at that place has probably had some horrific things happen to them. Men, women.
Yeah.
I mean, no human gets born, no human that I can think of gets born to destroy other human beings. I don't know where Hitler comes from. I don't know where, dictators that want to destroy human beings come from. But
Usually hard things.
Usually. So then I guess it's just what are the inputs, is there ever good? And so some of our ladies may have experienced some good, and it kept them from going truly to the dark side. And then that lady may have never experienced anything good until she literally, well, not literally, but she just gave over to the evil. I mean, she just completely just gave herself over to it. And yet, if she could ever see hope, there might still be a light there that she could come back.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of how our women describe it. No hope, no purpose, no community. Like when one of our ladies was talking this morning, she's like, I could have died on the side of the road and no one would have cared. And in India, I have picked up women on the side of the road. And that could have been one of our ladies.
And none of us know where the line is. That's the problem. None of us know where the line is.
Yeah.
And the person might be right next to the line that if we are not the voice that gives them hope, they may never come back. They may literally die, which, is what you're talking about. Or they could be this lady.
Yeah.
And this is the last line of hope before she simply gives herself over to the darkness. And then it might be nearly impossible for her to ever hear the light.
And that's probably why I'm so passionate about the systems that interact with our women, and how hard it is to show kindness. It's harder to show kindness because blame and shame are the easier ones because your heart doesn't get involved.
Yep.
It keeps people distance. And everything's.
And that's the thing. It was funny. I was having a conversation with Wally, and maybe we'll have him on the podcast at some point. And we were talking about what the experience with Rethreaded has changed in our lives, and he was sharing, what the difference was, and what he had experienced through just being connected with Rethreaded, and I said, I think one of the most significant things that has shifted since I came on with Rethreaded is to stop seeing people and to see a person. So all drug addicts are ... No, this is Sally, and this is her story and her experience, and she may also be using drugs, but that doesn't mean that her story is exactly like every other drug addict. So these systems that are built to process large groups of people group them in people, and they stop seeing individuals. And I think the numbers we deal with in trafficking around the world, that sort of thing, we stop seeing individuals and we just see masses of people. And so, yeah, we blame a group of people for this situation rather than this is an individual that has an individual set of needs. And it's messy. We talk about what Rethreaded does. It's messy, but I mean, I think that's the most powerful thing when we try to just treat them all as survivors. And this is what it might fix some things, but when we get really real and get really personal, and this is an individual and we know them, then we can really have connection. We can really have community. We can really have a successful system as long as we stop every single time another person's in front of us and we understand what's this person and what's the right thing for this person. And it's just hard. I mean, I really think I have no ill feelings towards the hospital systems or to JSO or to the court system, because I believe they're absolutely doing the best they can possibly do with the resources and tools they've got in their hands. And so I'm hoping that we can help get to a mental place that even while I'm busy and even while I have to go through these systems, somehow I can see the person in front of me. And then hopefully we can help create the systems to support those poor people who are on the front line, because, yeah, their heart's getting hurt in the process.
Yeah. I mean, because that's the thing. They're human. They're the one human as well.
That's right.
Who are doing it day in, day out.
That's right. And so what we end up doing in our political world and everything, we just constantly yell, all police are bad. I mean, we hear it on the news and stuff like that. Well, then you get the other side screaming, no, police are good. When, in fact, there's probably good ones that are really, really good at the person level. And then there's probably some bad ones that are really, really bad. And if we would stop protecting the bad ones while we're trying to be nice to the good ones, and if we would stop condemning the good ones while we're trying to deal with the bad ones, if we would deal with the individuals as they need to be dealt with, or teachers, or whatever, survivors,
or the Democrats versus
or the Republicans,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. We get so busy condemning the whole group that we completely miss the fact that there's a bunch of legitimately good, caring, loving people inside that group that don't think like everybody else. They're an individual. And so we either say this group's all good or all bad. Even in our churches, I am this religion. I say whatever my faith is. Okay, does that make me good? Or the fact that I've probably not lived a life that's absolutely consistent with the tenets of that religion, does that make me all bad? And if we can start getting to the place of, I'm probably not truly conservative or liberal. I'm probably not truly Christian or unfaithful. I'm probably not truly loving or hate-filled. I'm probably not truly good or bad, because I'm a human being. I'm a mess, and I'm probably a little bit of both all the time. And so I think when we can get to that place of realizing I'm no better or worse than these other people, because I'm just as hot and cold as everybody else is.
Wish I had my pair of ducks.
That's right.
It's holding the paradox.
It's holding the paradox. Mm-hmm. That I am Christian, but I don't live out the tenets of Christianity the way Scripture would say to live them. I'm not consistent in that. And so does that make up me bad or good because I'm part of a group? It just makes me complex. But those who are listening, don't get too cocky. So are you.
Well, that's what Jesus did, right? He walked up to the tax collector and said, join me. He walked to the woman at the well and said, join me. The woman being stoned, and he saved her, and he called 12, and he healed the one. And I mean,
yeah, he saw individuals. Yeah. He didn't talk to the woman who was about to be stoned about how all people who were caught in adultery behave. He talked to her, and understood that in that scenario it was a trap anyway. There was only one person there. There was two people involved. So this is a game we're playing here. I know this. I know what's going on, and he could see through those things, but. Yeah, if we can get to a place where we can see people and not groups, the systems will be better. But time, it's an investment that you have to spend, and then got to really be careful what you spend it on.
My takeaway for that was, where in your life do you have stones in your heart? Where do you need to sit with your pain for a while? That was it. You have to be able to sit with your pain. That was one of them. You have to be able to sit with your pain and walk through it because it's the only way. So that's a good question to ask yourself, is where are my stones? Where are my walls?
Yeah. And then I think the really surface ones. What am I ashamed of? And what am I still talking ugly to myself about? Okay, I need to do something about that today. Not tomorrow, today. Because I'm allowing what I think other people think of me or what I think of myself to dictate who I am, rather than listening to what God created me to be and what's God's saying about me and I'm capable of doing. And then the blame. Who am I still blaming for other stuff in my life? And when am I going to just stop doing it? Even if it's a good reason, even if I have a good reason to blame them, I have to choose to stop doing it and take responsibility for my life and make amends for the things that I've done. And it breaks us free. It just breaks us free to take control rather than live by default. I'm just going to be mad at my sister. I'm just going to be mad at my spouse. I'm just going to be mad at my parents. I'm just going to be mad at my boss. Or no, I'm going to do something about it to make it better and choose the relationship over the pain. Even when things are good. Even when things are good. I'm just tired at the end of the day. No, I'm going to consciously say the right thing to my spouse tonight. Even though I'm tired. Even though I'm distracted. Even though I had a horrible day today. Because the relationship is more important than the pain.
And my purpose is to love.
My purpose is to love.
Well, thank you all for joining us today. I love the podcast voice.